Wow, I want to become a student at VCU. That sounds awesome. Good morning, everybody. My name is Donna C., and I'm from Allied Minds. We're headquartered here in Boston, and we work exclusively with inventors and innovators at universities and federal labs across the country to fill that valley of death in both funding and operational expertise. This is our first time sponsoring the 2017 NAI conference, and just judging from the speakers and panelists that came before in the earlier part of the morning session, this is really a fabulous event, and we're very proud to sponsor it and be a part of it. I'd like to introduce our next speaker. This is Ruben Carbonell. Dr. Carbonell is from North Carolina State University, and he will be speaking, offering his insights and expertise on inspiring the next generation of innovators through industry-university collaborations.
Thanks. Good morning. This is my first time addressing this group. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to be one of the inductees as a fellow, and I want to thank all of you that had a part in approving that. I hope it's not a mistake. Today I thought I'd give you some perspectives from someone that still is doing work in the lab and doing research after nearly 45 years in academia. But I've had the good fortune of getting involved in ways within our university at NC State to help drive innovation and help to, in fact, encourage young people to become innovators. And the method that we're doing this right now, I'm happy to be the director of this Keenan Institute for Engineering, Technology, and Science. This institute is funded by philanthropy. It's funded by the Keenan Charitable Trust in North Carolina, and it's providing resources to fund research, basic research, especially new ideas. Is helping to fund technology commercialization efforts, bringing new ideas to the marketplace, training on entrepreneurship. Is funding programs in STEM education, all the way from K through 12 through postdocs, and partnerships with the Gordon Research Conferences, for example. And then policy and public engagement as well. We are trying to do our best to put out there workshops and symposia that deal with some of the leading problems in this country. So the reason I became involved in this is that I was one of the recipients over nearly 30 years ago now, some of the early funds that went to the formation of industry, university, government, consortia centers, and institutes. Very early on, the Keenan Institute decided that they were going to focus on this because they saw the great value in getting products out the marketplace, doing economic development through innovations and inventions. And I was very glad to be able to actually start one of the first programs that they had with Axel Chemical years ago. And then my colleague Joe DeSimone at UNC Chapel Hill and I began a consortium on CO2 utilization for manufacturing. This led to a Science and Technology Center that ran for 10 years and I was a co-director of. And then I had the opportunity to become director of the Keenan Institute itself, and I've been doing this now for over 18 years, even though I'm still working with centers and institutes like the Biomanufacturing Training Education Center that is partly funded by the Keenan Fund, and so on. So this is the idea of having small seed funding for new ideas, for leaders, and people that have a desire to do something big, and what can happen when you do that. So when you start thinking about what drives young people, and here, by the way, I include not only students, but also young faculty, which very often come from environments in which they're not or have not had the opportunity to deal with inventorship, is that when you talk to young people, they're really driven by a couple of things. One is important problems. And even though they might be entrepreneurs and they want to be making money and so on, I think they're trying to solve problems that will solve some of the issues for the well-being of mankind. But in addition to that, a lot of those folks either need right now or benefit from role models. Role models that could be other students, they could be faculty, they're entrepreneurs. I'm an example of one person that, as an immigrant to this country from Cuba at age 10, and living in Washington Heights, you know that movie, The Heights, I lived through that. If it had not been for mentors in my career, that was a long way to go from Washington Heights to the National Academy of Engineering, I must tell you. And I don't take a lot of credit for that if it had not been for the folks that helped me as an individual through funding and also example over many years. So this is a very important part of what this institution can do to help inspire young innovators. Because of my experience in training graduate students and postdocs and working with other faculty, including young faculty over the years, I think right now that this is the best way to educate graduate students and postdocs. It is to have industry-university collaborations broadly. There's nothing better for a graduate student than see that there are people out there wanting to use what they're doing. There's an opportunity for mentorship, as I mentioned earlier, this time from industry folks that have a different perspective on things than academics. The idea that they may have some more metrics and more time constraints is actually a good thing. It forces better communication. There's a whole gamut of reasons why this is a great way to educate graduate students and people that are going into academia and industry later on. I've also seen it opening up vistas for young faculty members that are looking for new opportunities, and this is great. I don't have to convince you that it's enhanced innovation. And in the 30 years I've been at NC State, I've seen the role of the Keenan Institute and other programs within the university really drive an entrepreneurial culture that I must say did not exist when I very first entered 30 years ago. This has been a dramatic shift, and it was done through industry-university collaborations. One of the big aspects, of course, is the fact that in centers, if you do this in a center format, the ability of students and faculty to deal and work with in a multi-institutional, many universities and many companies, multidisciplinary environment is a great thing for innovation. And also at the same time, people learn the tools of entrepreneurships. They get involved in creating at the very beginning, lab books that are subject to being able to prove that you invented something, invention disclosures, filing patents, dealing with technology transfer office. Those tools are crucial, and they need to be learned as a student. Communication and soft skills go without saying. I already talked a little bit about this. But also these centers, all of them have some kind of role in outreach to the public, outreach to schools, and it gives students and young faculty an opportunity to serve the community at the same time that they're getting benefits. And one thing that we often don't talk about, it is known through studies over many years that one of the big things in driving innovation is having a diverse work environment, a diverse team with women, African Americans, whatever. And this is another thing that centers tend to drive for, and I think it's something that also this institution could help drive as well. We've talked, actually, a couple of speakers have mentioned this gap in funding, between what happens at a university and what happens in companies. This particular graph is from the Department of Commerce focusing on manufacturing innovation, and this gap they're trying to bridge with this National Institute for Innovation in Manufacturing as an example. So in looking at what the Keenan Institute funds, together with North Carolina State University, we try to address that funding gap in different ways, and it is important to figure out exactly what you're funding and for what reason. So we have focused a lot of the support on early stage basic research support. We're looking for leaders. I don't care if they're undergraduates, graduate students, postdocs, or young faculty members. And we have this program called Research Innovation Seed Funding, which is competitive, but it provides something on the order of $30,000 a year for 2 or 3 years. It could be a high-risk enterprise with a high payout. We also have a larger program for groups that are already moving forward, and it's called the Game Changing Research Initiatives Program. These are faculty groups that are interested in forming centers and institutes. Same idea, trying to get these big groups together. We started over, I guess, somewhere 15 years ago, this education in entrepreneurship program called the Tech Program. And that also helps to bring together teams of business students, engineering, scientists to evaluate inventions at the university for potential funding. And it spun out numerous companies as a result of that effort. And then we are now playing a little bit with Inventors, with investment folks at the university to start commercialization efforts. And the chancellor started now a program to take basic ideas and go to proof of concept and linking them to companies. And that Chancellor's Innovation Fund is also partly funded by the Keenan Fund. And now the Wolfpack Innovation Network is a group of investors, mostly alumni and mostly regional, that are trying to provide funding to get these products out in the marketplace. The Doherty Initiative is also similarly funding commercialization efforts. And then NC State, because of what's happened over the last few years, is a big player in several of these Manufacturing USA Innovation Institutes. The last one that we got involved with is the one in biopharmaceutical manufacturing, led by the University of Delaware. I'm the CTO. I will be the CTO for this effort. And this is a great way of bridging that gap. NC State now is, I guess, a part that we're not leading all of them. We're leading one, Power America. But we are involved with about 9 of them out of the 16. So it's been really powerful. So I can tell you that back in when I came to NC State in '84, this drive, this partnership with the Keenan Institute and the NC State University has had a huge impact, so that now we are one of the leading universities in terms of innovation and corporate launches and so on for universities that do not have a medical school. We are kind of a traditional ag school, but we're doing really well. And you can see from the numbers there, in terms of the numbers of industry centers that we have, 7 industry university collaborative research centers, 2 engineering research centers simultaneously, and over 31 others I don't have time to list here. But this has basically become an entrepreneurial culture now, which I say is driven primarily by these multidisciplinary, multi-institutional programs. And we've got over 600 commercialization agreements and large numbers of jobs created, and 525 products on the market for over the last 10 years. It's kind of amazing. So anyway, thank you, first of all, for inducting me into the Institute. I'm really happy with that and thankful, and for the opportunity to talk to you today.
Pleased to introduce our next speaker, Jeffrey Dirk from Case Western University.